Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to take a closer look at AMD, Qualcomm. There are some interesting news coming up for both those players. Then we're going to take a closer look at some of manufacturing news here in the semiconductor space from companies like TSMC and Samsung, and some interesting reports that we're seeing on OpenAI CEO, yes, the CEO of the company that's behind ChatGPT, and some of their semiconductor endeavors. So we'll take a closer look in today's episode.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
So like I mentioned first, I want to start off with AMD. AMD is my number 2 position, as most of you guys know, and the stock is dominating. I think year to date, the stock is already up almost 21% as I am recording, sitting at $167. In the past year, the stock is up roughly 120%. And one of the main reasons, right, is the overall growth of the MI300, the growth of excitement of the MI300, and how it might take market share from AMD. I actually just did a video before we saw some analysts projecting that they can at least get $4 billion in this year, where AMD has only given us a number of about $2 billion. So the first thing I want to take a closer look at here for AMD is the CEO of a startup AI company called Lamini AI. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering the name. They do seem to be kind of like a form of cloud server provider to some extent that is really focused in the AI market. And this is a company that actually has a pretty cool partnership with AMD. In the past, they have mentioned how they have used a lot of AMD GPUs. So I want to say they're a preferred partner to AMD, and it does kind of showcase the strength of AMD's product. So the CEO just mentioned that they do have MI300x servers online, and they do show us this image of 8 MI300X GPUs running on this server. So pretty interesting to start to see the MI300X in the wild. And again, it's pretty interesting to see kind of startup AI companies use their workstations. So obviously there is this opportunity here for AMD, and that's what most investors are pretty excited about. The one thing I do want to say is with AMD, again, one thing I haven't really seen is kind of like a supercomputer cluster for their GPUs here from this, even this AI startup. They're using more like 8 GPU servers, unlike where you see with Nvidia's H100, where you see thousands and thousands of GPUs running on one server. But nonetheless, I do believe this AI startup does kind of give us a nice bullish sentiment for AMD. Now, the second company I want to take a closer look at is Qualcomm, another company we follow very closely here on this channel. If you guys enjoy the semiconductor space, make sure to hit the thumbs up, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We can see the stock in the past year is up roughly 16%, but we can see from its kind of October lows, the stock has pulled up a nice 45%. So Qualcomm is one that I do enjoy. There are two recent updates right now. First, on January 17th, we did see that Qualcomm and Samsung bring the most advanced Snapdragon ever to the first Galaxy AI powered smartphones, the Galaxy S24 series. So for those that are not familiar, right, Qualcomm is a big player in the AI consumer market of bringing AI to your local device and being done locally opposed to the cloud. And thanks to a lot of their AI solutions within their chips, like the Snapdragon, they do have form of AI accelerators there. So we do see that the generation 3 of the Snapdragon 8, for those that are not familiar, the Snapdragon 8 is usually the chip that goes on the premium phones, right? And this is based on TSMC's 4 nanometer node. It is pretty interesting that they are a little bit, that they haven't followed suit with Apple, who's already in the 3 nanometer. Qualcomm has chosen to stick with TSMC's 4 nanometer, which is kind of a variated version of their 5 nanometer, right? It's like a better version of their 5 nanometer. The other thing we do have for Qualcomm, and this one I thought was pretty interesting. So Qualcomm does appoint Akash as CFO and COO of the company. And this to me was pretty interesting, right? Because in my opinion, running two main positions, two executive positions is extremely hard. No matter how smart or how intelligent or how great you are in business, I do believe running multiple hats is a difficult task, and it's pretty interesting. I'm not a huge fan that Qualcomm has done this, but the CEO does mention that and let me just say, Akash has previously been the CFO, right? That was his responsibility for a while now. Now he has the additional role of COO, and there wasn't a COO prior to this, right? The company just has a CEO, the CFO, and they have the CTO, which is the Chief Technology Officer, but they didn't really have a COO. So I'm guessing in the background, maybe Akash was already running some of these stuff, and doing this almost on a day-to-day basis. Now they're just kind of putting it out there, and maybe eventually they might hire a new face to kind of take on the role of COO. Now, the last section of news, what I want to talk about is the manufacturing aspect. And this one is pretty interesting. We have reports that OpenAI's Sam Altman, which is the CEO of OpenAI, is in discussion with investors and chip manufacturers for an AI chip venture. And this is pretty crazy. It does seem like the CEO has gone to a lot of investors in a lot of rich countries and has even talked to TSMC about getting the project off the ground. I don't know what this entitles because starting a chip manufacturing company is very, very expensive. It's very time consuming, right? To kind of build a manufacturing plant, it takes multiple years. And then from starting from scratch, not being able to do it from the beginning, not having prior experience, I do believe is also another kind of big hurdle. So it's pretty interesting where that's going. We don't have too much. We just know that he's asking for money. Main reason it does seem like, hey, look, chips are AI chips right now are hugely supply constrained. So maybe the CEO believes that if he builds these AI chip manufacturing factories, it might help increase the capacity, which in theory it will. But we already have a lot of big players like TSMC expanding their capacity in advanced packaging. We have Intel also expanding their capacity and really entering the advanced manufacturing, which will bode well for AI. And obviously, we have Samsung. So this is a pretty interesting note. Again, OpenAI is part of Microsoft, and Microsoft just announced their AI chips, the Mia, I believe, 100, and the Cobalt 100. I forget the actual names. So pretty interesting because I'm pretty sure OpenAI CEO probably has some backing, or the CEO of Microsoft also has some thoughts on this. So this is something I want to keep a closer eye on and see where we get more informations about. But as a semiconductor investor, if I was an investor of TSMC, I wouldn't worry because TSMC is a GOAT. Some companies are worried that they might take market share from Nvidia. Again, for them to be able to do anything, it would be at least a 4 to 5 year product, if that, maybe even a lot longer than that. So as an investor of any of those companies, I wouldn't even blink an eye about it right now. Some other reports, we do see that TSMC is expanding in Taiwan. They bought about 247 acres in Taiwan to build their next facilities for future 1 nanometer technology, which I think is crazy. Which they're going to do roughly 150 for 1 nanometer technology, and about 100 acres are designed for advanced packaging. Some other thoughts here in the manufacturing aspect, we did see that Samsung is reportedly trying their second generation of 3 nanometer chips. Unfortunately for Samsung, a lot of the 3 nanometer chips wins are going to TSMC. So Samsung is really trying to kind of get some customers here in their 3 nanometer chips. Unfortunately, Samsung is going a different route. They are the first players to really start the gate all around process here, which is something TSMC is going to do in 2 nanometers, and Intel will also do below 2 nanometers. So Samsung is playing it a little bit different. It does seem to some extent it is affecting their yields. So they really want to push this second generation of their 3 nanometer to have yield rates of over 60%. So at the moment, it does seem like TSMC is dominating. If I was a TSMC shareholder, I really wouldn't worry too much, but just some news out there in the manufacturing aspect as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.